Life is not meant to be a struggle. But why do we make it that way? And what in the world can we do about it? Well, I'll have some thoughts about that in just a moment. There's a scriptural reference in the Bible that says, "Why are you anxious? Why do you worry? Consider the lilies of the field and how they grow. Consider how they neither toil and how they do not spin." In other words, I think it's saying to us in so many words, don't worry, be happy. At least that's my interpretation of those particular words. You know, oftentimes in life, we're spinning. Oftentimes in life, we're toiling and worrying about life. You know, I remember many years ago, one summer, I was sitting in the kitchen of a community center and the door was wide open. It was wide open because it did not have any air conditioning and, you know, it was very warm that day. And suddenly out of the blue, a bird flew into the kitchen and started flying around the kitchen. It did this for a while. Eventually it got tired and decided it wanted to get out. And, you know, this particular kitchen had some very high ceilings and had some windows at the top of the particular walls there. And the bird was then trying to fly out by flying through the window. And it would fly full speed against the windows over and over and over again. All the while, of course, the door was wide open for it to simply fly through if it chose to do so. And I kept trying to steer the bird toward that particular door. And I was even saying, go to the door, go through the door. Of course, it didn't understand what I was saying at all. And it kept, you know, banging his head against the window. Finally, one last time, the bird flew into the window and broke the window and got out of the kitchen. And I was saying to myself, it would have been a lot easier just to fly through that open door. You know, sometimes in our own life, we do that to ourselves. Sometimes we're going after what we want and we're trying to get it the hard way on ways that are just not working and creating unnecessary drama, unnecessary suffering. And we begin to toil and spin. Oftentimes if we just got still and, you know, began to see things from a different perspective, we'd see that there was always an open door for us. But we have to go through it. Many times we create that drama ourselves. We toil and we begin to spin because we get caught up in our stories that have nothing at all to do with what is real. Stories like, I don't have enough, or I'm not enough, or I'm not talented enough, or I'm not good enough, or I can't leave this terrible job that I'm in right now. Or we may say I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I'm too short, or too tall, or I don't have enough money, or I have too much money, which is impossible. You know, oftentimes our stories cause us to create a life of struggle, or at least one of toiling and spinning. But if we stop, we can realize that we can choose another story if we simply stop taking into truth that this story applies to us. You know, what we choose to focus on, you know, becomes our reality. That's a fundamental truth. And if we want to change our reality, we have to change our stories. So here are some of the ways I believe that we begin to let go of those disempowering stories and begin to rewrite new ones that support us, who we really are, and release the struggle. Number one, we have to be aware of what our story is and realize it's called a story for a particular reason, because it's just that. You know, we're meaning-making machines. We're making a meaning all of the time. Stories that are not true. Stories that can be rewritten. Stories that begin with the words such as, I always, or I never, or I can't, or I'm not good at. Whatever the case may be, that story can be changed. But first, we have to be aware of the story. Once we're aware, number two, we have to identify the payoff that we're getting from that particular story. Most of the time, there is something that we're gaining as a result of sticking to our story. You know, if we say we can't do something, or we say we can't get it right, or something to that effect, we're saying that we can become a victim. And we no longer have to take responsibility for our experience. And finally, number three, we begin to release our story. Once you become aware of your story, you can get rid of it. We don't have to hold on to it. You know, stories that say I can't, or those I never, that we tell ourselves, we can begin to let them go and say, get out of here, and replace it with a new story that gives us feelings of joy, that gives us feelings of upliftment, that gives us feeling of power and excitement when we begin to create an entirely new story that empowers us rather than disempowers us, and allows us to step into who and what we truly are as expressions of the presence and the power of love itself. Now, when you do that, we no longer become persons that are involved in our struggles. Well, I hope that you have got some value of this very brief video. And if you did, click the like button and leave a comment. Give me your perspective on it. And know that you can be transformed by the renewing of your mind and heart.